What is going on, YouTube? Team Gradelock here. I'm your host, Enrico, and I gotta say to all my wonderful, beautiful faces on the world, just miss you, love you. Now, today we got deck profile of the new Chatnoir. Thanks to the new Zoo Awakening, Chatnoir got more broken support, and Chatnoir even got a broken play where you can restand your Vanguard basically and still have your Breakride skill off, and it's just nuts. It's just so good in that one turn you can draw basically up to 9 to 10 cards. So I'm going to break down this deck profile for you as much as possible. At the end of the video, I'm going to say what deck do I think is better, either the new Chatnoir or the new Big Belly. If you guys haven't seen my Big Belly deck profile yet, please check out my other videos. I do have a Big Belly deck profile up. It's called the Amazing Big Belly. But like I said, at the end of the video, I'm going to say what do I think is better, new Chatnoir or new Big Belly. So yeah, for grade 3s we have 2 of the new Chatnoir. This card basically does this: whenever you ride on Vanguard, you can discard a grade 3, or you can discard any number of cards in your hand that equals out to grade 3. Then search your deck out for 2 Honorary Professors, add them to your hand, and the broken part about that is 1, it deck thins your deck. 2, it can help you search out your combo piece, which in this deck you actually have to search out for Chat Savage. And also it allows you to get a grade 3 so you can stride with. Second effect, counterblast 1. When you stride into a Chatnoir stride, you can search the deck for any Honorary Professor, put it as your heart, and then put this card back into your hand. Now there's a combo play that I want to show you guys, but I'm actually going to show that in another video. Basically what he does is you counterblast 1, search out for the Chatnoir, the old one, put it as your heart, put this card in your hand for either to cause a rearguard or stride with next turn. But in all honesty, if you activate his effect on that turn, you should be winning that turn, or the intention of activating his effect is to win that turn. Just for the fact that when you activate his effect, that turn you're basically going to go into the restanding Vanguard and the multiple attacking phase. Next grade 3 we have the old Chatnoir. This card basically is the combo, the first Chatnoir that started it all. So with this deck, you have to make sure you have at least 2 or 1 Chatnoir in your deck, just for the fact that the combo piece relies on searching your deck to put a Chatnoir from your deck into your soul, well, into your heart, and you have to make sure that this card is in your heart at all times for the Chat Savage to go off. Basically, his effect is whenever you ride a grade 3 on top of him, all your rearguards in the front row, whenever they attack your opponent's Vanguard, give +4 to itself or another rearguard, and end phase, draw a card, then dies. So his effect is stackable even if you have restanding rearguards, or if you have other rearguards coming into play. Next grade 3 we have Chat Savage. Basically what this card is, whenever it rides over a Honorary Professor Chatnoir, you can discard a Honorary Professor from your hand and then put a stride unit on top of him. Now keep in mind, when he rides over Chatnoir, the Breakride skill does go off, and then when his skill goes off, you put a stride on top of him. You're not actually striding during your ride phase, so you don't miss the timing to get the Breakride skill. So, I mean, even though you're not going to get the +10 to the stride unit, you're still going to get the Breakride skill, which allows the rearguards to still attack your opponent's Vanguard and give +4 either to itself or another rearguard, and you're also going to draw a lot of cards. So Chat Savage is highly recommended to play either 3 or 4 of. He's again one of the main combo pieces of the deck, so you gotta make sure you have one in your hand at all times. And like I said, he's pretty much a vanilla afterwards, but you only want to ride into him as a Vanguard during the turn when you go into the restanding Vanguard play. So highly recommend to play 4 of him. Grade 2s we have the Panther. Basically does this whenever we have a grade 3 Honorary Professor. Whenever it attacks my opponent's Vanguard, give +4 to another rearguard in the same row as him. So basically the next row, the next column over my Vanguard, give it +4, end phase, draw a card, then dies. Now this card isn't like, broken, but this card is basically a good help, a good push early game, mid game, just for the fact that it allows me to draw a card and also allows me to rush. So I do play 2 of him at the moment, might bump up to 3, not too sure in all honesty. But he does help out so much early game and mid game. Late game, he's pretty much broken just for the fact that I only use him just to get that +1 draw. Next grade 2, we have the Trickle British. Basically what this card does is whenever it's targeted by my Vanguard that has Honorary Professor in its name, and when it retires due to that effect, it gets +4, end phase, retire itself, and you can add back any other grade 3 to your hand. Any other grade 3 Honorary Professor. So he's not really there for the power play. I mean, he does get +4, but that's not the main point of playing him. The main reason why we do play him is just for the fact that we can add back any grade 3 back to my hand, any honorary professor back to my hand. So let's say I have a really bad hand and all my grade 3s are in the grave, and I need to get them back. So I can either have him die, get a Chat Savage back to my hand, or get back the Chat Stride back to my hand. So if my combo play isn't going right, if I have a really bad hand, if I want to fix it, this card is the way to go. Next grade 2 we have Krantz. Krantz obviously is the main reason why Great Natures is great in the first place. This card restands a rearguard. God forbid that rearguard has an extra crit on it. And end phase, draw a card, then retire. Now this card is very crucial to have during the combo play turn. So I highly recommend at all times, if you're playing this deck, you gotta make sure you have at least one Krantz in your hand, or if you can go through your deck enough to make sure you draw into the Krantz. So highly recommend to play 4 Krantz in Chatnoir. Next grade 1 we have 3 Washed Up Raccoon. Washed Up Raccoon basically in there just to make sure that I don't deck out. Also it's in the deck just to make sure that if, God forbid, my grade 3s, my Krantz, all my good cards are in the grave and I actually need them back into my deck. Washed Up Raccoon's ability basically is whenever this card's retired, end phase, counterblast 1, put back any normal unit, non-trigger unit, back to the deck, and search off another Raccoon and add it to my hand. So this card again helps me not deck out, helps me put back the Krantz into my deck, or helps me put back the grade 3 Chatnoir into my deck to make sure I can do the combo play without misplaying. Next we got 3 Colleen Duckbill. Now Colleen Duckbill is one of the crucial cards of the deck. This card allows me to rush early game, either first turn or second turn, but also for the fact that in this deck, in this Chatnoir deck, we do have an early retiring on first turn. So if I draw an opening hand of 3 Duckbill or 2 Duckbills and make a Saburo, it's a broken combo, allows me to draw cards, allows me to search out for any grade 3s if I combo Duckbill off with Mika Saburo. So this card is very essential for early game and mid game. Late game, you're probably not going to see it go off, because if you do the combo late game, your Duckbill's effect's not going to go off, it's actually going to miss timing. So again, Duckbill, very crucial, early game and mid game. Next we got the PGs. Now for the PGs of this deck, we have the counter-charging Shellmaster. Now we still play this card just for the fact that this deck counterblasts so much. This deck is very counterblast heavy, so you got to be kind of careful. So you got to make sure you have enough counterblast for the combo play. So I highly recommend to play 4 counter-charging PGs. Next for grade 1s we have 4 Mika Saburo. Mika Saburo is basically the MVP card for Great Natures. This card allows me to give the effect to another rearguard when it dies, search out for grade 3, and this is very stackable. Now when I say stackable, I mean if I play one unit, play all 4 of them, put all 4 of the effects on this one card, end phase when this card does die, I can search out for 4 grade 3s. Broken. Now again, this deck we actually have a first turn retiring effect. He actually kills himself. So you can play Mika Saburo first turn without a counterblast. And you can also do it second turn or third turn. Late game wise, Mika Saburo you probably won't see go off, but that's perfectly fine. So keep in mind, Mika Saburo is a great card early and mid game, but he does lose timing during late game. Just for the fact that late game we're actually going to focus a lot on the combo play. Triggers wise, we have 4 heal triggers, pretty standard. I know this is the wrong heal trigger, I do apologize. I'm actually going to have the right heal trigger right up here. So the right heal trigger to play in this deck is the new Koala. Basically, whenever you gguard, and if you have another copy of the heal trigger in your grave, counter charge 1 or soul charge 1. That heal trigger I highly recommend to have. You can either play this or the new heal trigger, but again, I highly recommend to play the new heal trigger, and I do apologize. I actually don't have any more copies of the new heal trigger. So in this deck profile, we only have these. Next, we have 12 crit. First critical trigger, we have the Unicorn. Basically, it's a 5k critical trigger. Not much to say about that, but the 5k actually can help out reach that magic number. Next, we also have the Chameleon crit trigger. Again, this Chameleon crit trigger, a lot of people are very on the fence with it. People don't want to play it. Some people do want to play it. I like to play it just for the fact that, again, if I have a really bad hand, if I have certain rearguards that I don't want to kill in one turn, I could just play him, give himself a +4, or have him attack my opponent's Vanguard and give another rearguard +4. Just the fact that actually there are some turns where I need to actually call unit to do certain plays for next turn, or either to draw a card. But he's very beneficial just for the fact that when he does die, counterblast 1, search off another chameleon, add it to my hand, so I can have a trigger to defend with next turn. Also, I'm a big fan of chameleon just for the fact that he's non-GB. Again, I'm a huge fan of non-GB cards. I love playing cards early game, mid game, and late game. Next critical trigger, we have the new approval critical trigger. This card basically is whenever you put in the soul, give +3 to the rear guard. That is very beneficial just for the fact that sometimes I want to reach a certain number. I want to reach either 11k or 21k. I could just call him, put in the soul, give +3 to the rear guard, so it can actually hit my opponent's Vanguard. Pretty good. And finally wise, we have the starter of the deck. This card basically does is, I can rest it, reveal a Honorary Professor in my hand, discard it, search over my deck for another Honorary Professor, and add it to my hand. End phase, it retires itself. So the main reason why we play it is just the fact that it's an early first turn non-counterblast retirement. So with that card, I can easily combo it off with all the Mika Saburos, or I can combo it off with all the Duckbills. Now, I can do a first turn, and first turn is basically going to be a first turn rush, or I could do a second turn, and again, second turn is going to be basically another rush. On to the stride zone. For the first two strides, we have the Immortal Professor. This card basically does is whenever it attacks my opponent's Vanguard, counterblast 1, I can call out to units, as many as face-up G units on my G zone. So if I have 3 face-up, I can call out 3 cards from my hand to the field, which adds an extra 6th or 5th or 7th attack that turn. Also, it gives them the ability whenever it attacks my opponent's Vanguard, give +4 to itself, end phase, draw a card, then dies. So it's a power play and also a drawing play. It helps me draw cards, end phase, and it also helps me get in that extra attack, that rush turn, basically. And also for the fact that this card is one of the combo pieces for the Chat Savage Resending Vanguard skill play. If you guys want, stay tuned for another video. In another video, I'm going to explain that combo piece. Next, we have the Super Honorary Professor Chatnoir. Now, this card basically does is whenever it attacks my opponent's Vanguard, counterblast 1, I can put this card back into my stride zone and then put a grade 3 from my hand on top of my Vanguard. So basically, when I activate his skill after he attacks my opponent's Vanguard, let's say I have the regular Chatnoir as my heart. I can activate its effect, put a new grade 3 on top of my Vanguard, which is Chat Savage, and then Chat Savage skill will go off with the Breakride skill. And then when his skill goes off, basically I just discard a grade 3 from my hand, and I can stride into another Immortal Professor, which is going to be him. And I'm still going to keep the Breakride skill. So again, it's kind of like a Resending Vanguard play turn, but it's kind of not. All I got to do is basically counterblast 1 and discard 3 cards. Pretty simple. But it's like I said, this deck is very, very counterblast heavy. So you got to make sure you have at least 4 face-up counterblasts. Next, we have the Lesions Fried. This card basically does this whenever a rearguard reaches 25k, he becomes successful. Then he gets +4 to any rearguard, end phase, draw a card, then dies. But the main reason why we actually play him is just to send back 4 cards to the bottom of my deck. Now, when I can send back 4 cards, I can either send back triggers, send back grade 3s, or Krantz daggers. But again, you mainly only want to play him just for the fact that if your opponent lives through the combo piece turn, if they live through the Resending Vanguard turn, then you're going to have to make sure you don't deck out. This card helps you not deck out. This card puts back cards into your deck to make sure you can play another turn against your opponent. Next card we have is the Immortal Dragon from Zoo Awakening. This card basically does this: Soul Blast 1, flip up any card in G zone, give +4 to your front row for each face-up card in G zone. So this card is actually a good first turn stride and late game stride. Just for the fact that first turn stride, it puts on pressure on my opponent, it allows me to draw cards, and it just makes those magic numbers. Late game wise, it can make huge numbers, and my opponent probably can't guard all of them, especially if I have a Krantz dagger during that turn. Now, unfortunately, I only have 1 of it right here in this deck. In this deck profile, I should actually be playing 2 of it. Again, I'm a little bit short on Great Nature cards, so if you're looking into this deck profile, you should play 2 of them in your deck. Make sure you have 2. This card puts in a lot of work. Highly recommend to play 2. Next stride, we have the old Honorary Professor Chatnoir stride. This card basically does this whenever a rearguard attacks my opponent. Counterblast 1, give +4 to any rearguard, end phase, draw a card, then dies. But unfortunately, this card, it is a counterblast for each time a rearguard attacks my opponent, so I highly recommend not to stride into him. But if your hand is so bad, if you don't have any cards in your hand, if your hand is complete trash, and you want to fix it, and if you have a lot of face-up counterblast, then I recommend to play him for first turn, second turn, or whichever other turn, and you can fix that hand easily by drawing into a new hand. Now again, he's very counterblast heavy, but again, in this deck we have a lot of cards that can help us countercharge. Next we have the Ominous Dragon Frag. Now Frag basically is the one that nukes my whole board, countercharges from my whole board, soul charges from my whole board, and draw cards from my whole board. Basically his effect is whenever you destride, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, for each card that's retired, you draw a card, soul charge, and countercharge. So with that effect alone, it actually goes against a lot of Link Jokers, especially Messiahs, because Messiahs need to have my board locked down, and end phase, if I retire my board before they lock it again, they can't really do much. Against Chaos Breaker, this card is pretty decent. Chaos Breaker is now like 110 times better than it was before. Chaos Breaker is more faster. So the Owl isn't that great against Chaos, but you can still use it against it. You can mess up their plays. Next card we have the Ominous Dragon Affleck. Now the reason why I play him is just the fact that if you play against Kagero, Murakami, any deck that has a retiring effect on G-Guards, you counterblast 1, play him. For each face-up card in your G-Zone, target your rear guards. He gets +4 for each card targeted, and they can't be retired until the end of the turn. So, in this meta, we have a lot of Kagero going around and a couple Vanquishers going around, so I highly recommend to keep one. Unfortunately, he's a counterblast 1, so you gotta be a little bit careful about that. On to G-Guards, we have the Armadillo. Basically, if I have 3 empty circles, he's a 36k guard against my opponent. Pretty simple. Next G-Guard, we have the Ominous Dragon. This card basically goes against Mega Colony and Vanquisher. Mega Colony now can stop me from calling cards on my turn, but with this card's effect, I can call cards on their turn. So it's kind of like a loop around the new Mega support that they got in Awakening Zoo. But its effect is Soul Blast 1. I can call out to 2 units, they get resist, and if they're attacked, they can't be retired until the end of that turn. So this card also goes against VMAX. VMAX basically attacks my whole board, and if I have no board, it can counterblast 2 and deal me a damage. So again, Great Natures, basically they barely have a board anyways. So against Vanquisher, they always have an easy opening to VMAX me. So with this card, it actually helps me go against VMAX. I highly recommend to play one, just for the fact that again, in this format, we do have a lot of Mega Colony going around, and we do have a couple Vanquishers going around. Next, we have the Immortal Professor, the Peacock. Basically, this card is, I can target one of my rear guards, then countercharge, end phase, that rear guard dies. So it's a 31k guard against my opponent. It does countercharge 1, but it does retire one of my rear guards. So it's decent, just for the fact that it allows me to countercharge. Last G-Guard, we have this beautiful thing. Now, if you guys don't know, this beautiful thing basically refreshes my hand, helps me draw into a better hand, and it can help me Omega Guard against my opponent and still have a hand afterwards. So this card's effect is counterblast 1. For each card in my Guardian Circle, at the end of that, when they're all retired, I can draw for each one. So let's say I have like 20 cards in my Guardian Circle. I G-Guard, activate the effect, counterblast 1. At the end of that battle, when these are all retired, I draw for each card. So again, this card allows me to refresh my hand. This card allows me to draw into a better hand. I highly recommend for every Great Nature deck to have one at all times. So yeah guys, that's my Chatnoir deck profile. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys liked this video, please hit the like button. If you guys have any comments, leave a comment down below. And as I promised guys, I'm going to tell you guys what I think is better, the new Chatnoir or the new Big Belly. In my honest opinion, it's going to go to Big Belly. Just for the fact that Big Belly is more consistent. Big Belly doesn't rely on having to have combo pieces in the hand. Big Belly doesn't rely on going into certain strides. It's just Big Belly is more easier and more flexible to play than Chatnoir. Again, don't get me wrong, Chatnoir is a very aggressive deck. This card has one of the most aggressive plays I've ever seen in Great Natures. It basically has a resetting Vanguard with 7 other attacking rear guards, and I draw a lot of cards at the end of that turn. But again, that play isn't flawless. That play can mess up really easily. You can sometimes mess up the combo play, or you don't have the pieces for it. So I do apologize, but Big Belly is more better than the new Chatnoir support. Aggressive wise, Chatnoir is more better, but I'm going to give it to Big Belly. So yeah, guys, that's my Great Nature build for Chatnoir. I'm actually going to have a combo piece play video for Great Natures coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. I guarantee we're going to have more videos later on. And as always, guys, may the critical trigger forever be in your favor. Deuces.